Merry Christmas morning, everybody. It's me, Teri Hunter. Welcome, welcome. So here is our Christmas Day gathering. I wanted to find out if what you guys wanted to talk about a little bit. If you had any questions or ideas, I came up with a little bit of something I might want to chat about. Good afternoon, Juan. Good morning, good afternoon. Happy Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Boxing Day, Happy Kwanzaa. Good morning, Sabrina. Welcome. So we weren't going to do any readings today, but what I wanted to do was just kind of talk a little bit. Good morning, Stephen. I'm glad you. Oh, it's not morning. It's afternoon. I forgot it's raining here like crazy, and I'm so used to saying good morning, but it's good afternoon. Merry Christmas. Good morning, Stephen Stanel. So I was thinking about, one of the things I wanted to talk about is we briefly talk about on Sundays the law of allowing. Good morning, Cosmo Kid. Good morning, Leslie. Happy holidays, everybody. Good morning, Jay. So I said hi to Sabrina. Okay, cool. Yeah, it's chilly and rainy here. So I wanted to talk about the laws of allowing, you guys, a little bit. And I said that because it's, in theory, we can talk about, I'm going to allow good things to come into my life. And then there's these little thoughts that will creep into our consciousness, asking us, do we deserve? Are we good enough? Are we worthy enough? Good morning, Small Wildflowers. Welcome. Good morning, Lisa Starseed Expat. Got it. Okay. So I wanted to talk about how to neutralize resistance a little bit, because for me, what I have found is that when I'm worried about something, it can sort of grip me like this. And in order for me to stop the loop, I have to find a place of neutrality. Good morning, Teresa. Welcome. Good morning, Cece Pup. So good to see you all. So I was thinking, how could I tell you guys about what I do to neutralize my mind when I'm worried? And neutralizing it is not trying to be positive in the face of negativity and not giving into negativity. It's sort of trying to be in the neutral zone of the unknowing. So, a couple things I do. I do word finders. I am like a weirdo. I can just sit here and do word finders, and it will put my mind in neutral. The other thing I do, I don't know if you guys are into this kind of idea, but I also like to color. So I have this book of mandalas, and I colored this a couple of years ago. And what it does is it really just kind of puts me in a whole different place. Here's another one I did. They're kind of fun. So I wanted to find out, what do you guys do when you're in a worry place or when you're in concern? How do you put your minds in neutral? How do you find a place of, because positivity is actually the worst resistance there is. Good morning, Philip Daniel Miles. Nice to see you. Welcome, welcome. I think this is your first time here with me. Good morning. Did I say good morning? Yes, to Stephen. Heart Space Astrology. Welcome, welcome. Good morning, Cheryl. Good morning, Paula. It's good to see you all. So, Sabrina, so you go outside in the woods and just sit there. Okay, that's a great idea. That's a really fun thing. But it's kind of funny. Oh, congratulations, Mushlin. That's awesome. A new soul coming into the world. That is such a beautiful thing. Good morning, Barbara. Good morning, Jennifer. And did I say good morning, Cheryl? Good morning, Cheryl. So, Christmas baby, I know. Okay, what I mean, Sharu, by positivity worsens resistance is because what you're doing when you're trying to be positive in the face of worry is it's a resistant energy. You're saying, no, this challenging thought, this worry bubble is not good. And so what it's kind of doing is it's pushing up against it. So this is why I talk about trying to find the neutral zone, because if we can find the neutral zone in our energy, then spirit has an opportunity to start to bring in experiences that would support the bigger vision of what you have. Steven says, I have a hobby that helps me by taking a Monster High doll and cutting the hair. Oh, what do you you redo a doll? That's an interesting thing. Oh, I would think floral design would really, really take my cares away. I love that. I really feel like being able to connect with some kind of creativity, which is why I love to color. I knit. Um, what are some of the other things I do? I have this crazy printer. Can you guys hear it in the background? It's literally off and it's acting out. Philip, oh my goodness. Well, happy birthday. I'm assuming when you say it's my solar return 6 hours before the new moon and solar eclipse, it is your birthday, right? Well, congratulations. I bet this is going to be, this is supposed to be a very fortuitous eclipse through all of this madness of all these other transits. Cheryl Conway is the winner of a free. Okay, so what we did here today, guys, we didn't tell anybody we were doing this, but Small Wildflowers and I decided that the 25th person that made a comment in the chat would win a free hour reading with me. Cheryl Conway, you are the winner. Merry Christmas, girl. So reach out to me after we're done with this. I will put the contact information, and you just need to reach out in the next week or so. So I have your contact information. I wanted to do that. That's one of the main reasons why we wanted to do today, is I just wanted somebody to win and for it to be an awesome surprise. So you never know when we'll do this again. Okay, let's see. Okay. All right. Okay, so anyway, so on to, now that we've announced our winner, our Merry Christmas winner, do you guys have anything that you want to ask me about? Anything that to do with the angelic realm? Anything to do with how I go about manifesting? How I whittle through my days? Is there anything you wanted to ask me? Good morning, Rachel. Good morning, Earthshine Massage. Good morning, Jasmine. I want to make sure I didn't miss anybody. Okay. Help me out here, guys. Anything you're curious about, anything you want to know. Saturn conjunct K2 energy. Well, that is a drag, if you ask me. I actually have Saturn squaring my K2 right now. And it has been one of the things that, one of the reasons why I'm focusing in on the laws of allowing right now, because I have really felt like I was walking through mud quite a bit. And no matter what I was trying to do to feel the deepness of my truth, I was still in my human mind kind of messing me up. So that's when I started to really dig into getting into coloring again and doing my word finder. I've bought a new one for 2020. If you've been seeing angel numbers everywhere, I feel like that's really important to pay attention to the number, how often you see the number, and not only what you've been taught about what the number means, but how it resonates with you on a soul level. When I was a little girl, my favorite number was 7. And I don't know why it was, but when I see 7s, it reminds me of my childhood. It reminds me of the day I actually noticed 7s standing in my parents' or my grandparents' yard, and things like that. So again, I can trace those back to the inner knowing that I've had ever since I was a child. Okay, Taurus Sun, Capricorn Rising, and Libra Moon. Been emotional, but I think I'm thinking how and want to be unstuck. Okay, Elizabeth Johnson. Actually, that was my aunt's name, Elizabeth Johnson. So welcome, Elizabeth. You know what? If you're feeling stuck, don't resist it a little bit. Instead, ask Spirit, what does this stuckness have to offer me? Oftentimes when I'm stuck, it's a plateau. It's a step in which I am I am going through a transitional place. I have felt this last year, I'm so grateful to be able to live my truth, to do this work, and to do it full time. And yet I've felt sort of muted. I felt like it hasn't been at the same heightened level as I've continued to do it. And what I realized is that this is the transitional period to the next big dream. So sometimes, Cheryl, when we feel stuck, or I'm sorry, it wasn't Cheryl, it was Elizabeth. When we feel stuck, it's that in between place between um, the wrapping up and the manifestation of one big dream and then moving into the next. I don't know if I've ever mentioned to you guys a book called The Dream Giver by Bruce Wilkinson. It's I think it's considered a Christian book, but it has such a beautiful universal message. It's about a character named Ordinary who lives in the land of familiar. And Ordinary has a big dream. But in order to realize his big dream, he has to go out into the desert of his dreams. So as he gets to the border of the land of familiar and the dream, desert of his dreams, there are the border bullies. And these bullies aren't really bullies, but they're more like fear mongers. Like they say to him, Ordinary, how will you survive in the desert? How will you know if your dream will come true? And the only thing Ordinary has is faith. And so what he does is he steps out, or she steps out into the desert and continues to seek faith. And the desert can give us mirages. It can scare us. But eventually he continues on. And when he gets to his big dream, he only to find out that this is the beginning and the impetus of the next big dream. So that's kind of where I'm talking about. Okay. Elizabeth, if indeed you're a Taurus, maybe there's this Uranian aspect that's happening right now. This transit is meant to allow you to sit in what does Uranus represent? The unexpected, liberation, freedom, divorce, the airwaves. Maybe it's a time not to push up against it. Maybe it's a time to actually sit back and then allow for this unexpected, this serendipity. This is what this eclipse today is supposed to offer us. And again, when we talk about long transits, I would bet, Cheryl, or if we look back, these could be the effects of a Neptune transit, of a Uranus transit. Pluto's been in Capricorn for over decades. I think almost, I think it's been 15 years already. I can't really quite remember. All right. Let's see. The title of the book is called The Dream Giver, and it's by Bruce Wilkinson. And it's a fable. And I'll be very frank with you guys. I read the first half, and then the second half of the book is sort of a coaching from a Christian standpoint, and I didn't really read that part of the book. I was just really into the fable. So, yeah, in some ways, what I found is that these transits, first of all, I'll tell you this. Ignorance is bliss. Before I knew about astrology, I just thought I was having a crappy day. But now sometimes I'm like, oh no, this is going to last forever. But what I've also learned is a surrender to the dynamic. So if I've been feeling glum or feeling a little down, I have not pushed against it. I've done Word Finder. I've taken a nap. I've taken a walk. Sometimes trying to, go into my grateful energy. Oh, I'm grateful for this. And oh, this is so great in my life. It almost feels like I'm like, you know what? I'm not in that kind of mood today. I'm not in the mood to be grateful for every little beautiful thing I have. I'm in a mood to be kind of pissy. And I want to offer this because if we've never been pissy, we really don't know what it feels like to be good. There is a wisdom to this contrast. Good morning, Debbie Rule. Good morning, Bonnie. Good morning, Catastrophe Theory or Chaos Theory. I think that the more we sit in our intuitive bodies, the more we do read between the lines. We hear the energetic message that somebody is sending us versus the words that are coming out of their mouth. And I want to say this for those that are feeling a little glum or a little down. First of all, this time of year is very it's kind of a time of year, we see all these movies about everybody being so happy and joyous, but it can trigger a lot. It can trigger loneliness. It can trigger, um, seeing people as couples. And if you're not a couple, it can kind of, set you off a little bit. But I really feel like at the same time, this particular eclipse, this particular Christmas season, this particular January coming up of a new decade is really the final shedding of the skin that no longer serves us so that we can step into the vibration that really is authentic to us. And we're suffering through this sort of um, evolution, this breaking of the shell, breaking of the box, because the timing coming up, guys, as Uranus moves closer and closer towards the Gemini house, we're going to see more and more revolution, more and more technological advances that allow us to break old patterns and old bloodlines that have kept us anchored to this fear-based dynamic. And this is what I want to say about fear. It's not the avoidance of fear, it's the transformation of fear. Because when we stand in fear, in a way, like I always think of it, you guys who watched the show before, I talk about the guy that, tries out for the voice. And of course, he's scared out of his mind, or she is scared out of their mind. They want it more than anything. But it is that fear bubble when they conquer it, when those chairs turn and they go to the next round, it's exhilaration. And if they never put themselves in that fearful place, they would never know the exhilaration. So the key to fear is making sure you're in the lane that's truest to your heart. And that way, negativity, challenges, indecision, doubt, they will all empower you. But when we're working in jobs that we hate and in relationships that we hate, then those things just anchor us into depression, into sort of this kind of human box that we no longer serves us. Okay. Bonbon 825, some people are naturally positive. And I don't think that that's, when I talk about positivity fueling negativity, it's when there's a resistance to it. It's when you're pushing on it. But naturally happy people, I love naturally happy people. I'm not one of them. I've kind of had to work at it. And the more I've been able to stand in my truth, that the easier that's been. Yes, getting busy helps as well. Anything you can do to shift your focus. It takes a while to acclimate sometimes to a new area. I remember when I first moved to Laguna, I was going through quite a few challenges. I don't know if I told you guys this story, but back in the early 2000s, I had lived up in Santa Monica and I moved to Orange County because my whole life, I worked in Hollywood, everything was changing, everything was in flux. And when I moved down to Orange County, it was like, talk about a fish out of water. Holy moly, scololi. It was terrible, terrible. I hated it here. And I ended up moving to North Carolina with the delusion of opening a spiritual bookstore in the middle of the Bible Belt. Okay. I didn't know what the Bible Belt was. Just really ignorant. And in the move home a year later, I lost every single thing I own. The moving van was stolen. And I was 42 years old at the time. And everybody in my family was like, you're an idiot. You are a stupid ass. I came home and I had nothing. But I'll tell you, it was probably the most terrible 2 years of my life and the most liberating 2 years of my life, because it was through that experience that I chose to move to Laguna Beach. It was through that experience that Spirit was able to bring me a place to live that would support the future of my work. And what I did was I sat and started telling Spirit, what do I want? I want a place overlooking the ocean. I want to be able to walk everywhere. I want to feel a sense of blah, blah, and I just kept stepping into that vibration. So as I did that, unbeknownst to me, things started to fall into place. And I didn't really get to have a consciousness about it until I've been here 16 years. I've been working on my own as an intuitive and as a spiritual coach for the last 6 years. So for 10 years, I was building that practice. and not aware of how spirit had been lining things up. So it is through that experience. Good morning, KK. Good to see you. It's through that experience that I started to be able to sit in the unknown a little bit more. I'd be able to sit and say to spirit, okay, something's up. What are you guys up to? What are you doing? Give me a sign, give me an omen, give me something. And as I did that, the conversation became clearer to me, and we became clearer. The connection became clearer. And I'm telling you, there were times when, like, there was a time when I was listening to a spiritual conversation, and the conversation was on YouTube, and the person having it was talking about focus. And at the time, my focus was on crap. I mean, this is just a few months ago. And I literally started to laugh out loud because I felt like my guides were giving me a little bit of a chat. They're like, you're bitching, you're complaining. Well, all you're doing is focusing in on what you want to bitch and complain about. Why don't we start to focus on how it feels once that's been solved, once you've come to that solution? And so I started to realign again. There's so much being orchestrated by God and the angels that we are unaware of. Because I want to offer you this, Cheryl, and everybody else who's listening, is that we have a part of our soul that is holding space for everything that we've ever wanted to experience, everything that's come before from our previous lifetimes, and everything that we want moving forward. And so when we get into our human bodies and start to kind of vacillate back and forth, it isn't tanking us. It isn't sending us down the tubes. It's actually teeing us up for that empowerment, for that exhilaration, if we're willing to step into that. But we've got to be brave to do so. Because in that bravery is like, how am I getting in my own way? And that for me is focus. And I'll tell you, I'm sure you guys have heard of Eckhart Tolle, right? The Power of Now. Have you heard of Eckhart Tolle? Oprah did a whole series with him called A New Earth. And Eckhart Tolle was about to take his life. He was ready to kill himself. And he thought to himself in that very moment, what if everything changes? What if tomorrow's a whole new day? And he didn't. And then he was inspired to write the book, The Power of Now. And then that ended up, he had no money. He was like literally like ready to push a shopping cart, and everything turned around for him. Oprah read his book, and now he's a multimillionaire and revered by millions of people. So it's kind of like this moment, if we can just sit in this moment. And I'm telling you, when we're scared, don't try to do it alone. Don't try to do it alone. Call on your guides, call on your angels. Tell them that you're feeling, too much stuck in your human body. It's called, Paula, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. His name is spelled ECKART TOLLE. I don't think it's IE. I think it's just E, TOLLE. So, you know what, Chaos Theory, that's probably a sign from God and the angels. If your friend Phoenix has been telling you, and then you've heard it from me, and I haven't talked about Eckhart Tolle at all, then that's a sign. Anything you see or hear 3 times is trying to get your attention. Oh, having the flu. Oh, that's not fun. That's not fun at all. Take good care of yourself. Lots of fluids with the flu. The outer planets, Bonbon 825, is I believe those are the emotional. Those have domain over our emotional and spiritual bodies, the things that we don't see as we walk through our world. And it makes perfect sense to me because those transits are so long, and our emotions, the human, it's so funny how people will say, oh, it's just a child. Don't worry about them. They'll be fine. And then, you spend the rest of your life getting over your childhood. So what I'm getting at here is that I just lost my train of thought. Hold on. What was I talking about? Where was I going with that? I just lost my train of thought, you guys. Let me look back at the chat. What was I saying? Oh, good or bad. That's what it's the outer planets. Okay. Because the psychological planets, that's mostly what when we incarnate into this planet, I believe that part of it is to be able to align the physical experience with the emotional and spiritual experience. So before we incarnate, I believe we go into like the big conference room and we have a table read with the people that will be involved in this lifetime and the things that we want to experience. Then we come under the veil of the human ego and everybody else around us who says you've got to work hard in order to achieve, and you've got to pound the pavement to find a job. And yet the outer planets have the inner knowing. The inner knowing never forgets where we come from, what our truth is. So I believe that part of the reason these transits are so long is to give us an opportunity to connect to that deeper truth that then can be supported through that physical experience, which would be the seven inner planets or ancients, the ones I'm talking about, the sun through Saturn. Make sense? I think so. I want to say this, Corrine. I believe that we choose everything, but again, we choose probabilities because we're banging around up against other people, and other people have their same table read. They have their same, we're all going through the same process. So it's through these probabilities and as our energies come together that it gives us a chance to make the choice to choose the unknowing higher vibration that manifests. I hope that makes sense. Thank you, Chaos Theory. I'm really not an astrologer, but when I was a little girl, and again, I'm 60 years old, my grandmother used to sit at the kitchen table and she literally by hand was trying to figure out astrology. And it kind of, with what I've learned over the years, I wonder if she was scared of all the people in her family when she looked at our charts. But so I've always had this love of astrology, but it wasn't until I found Lada's channel that I started to really explore more. And the more I started to explore, the more spirit started to use, just like they give me my information through my intuition, they started doing the same thing with the planets. It's like the planets became personalities in some ways. Sabrina, what I would say about using astrology to find out for a fulfilling way to support yourself is really, in some respects, it's kind of interesting because for me, I have a conjunction between Neptune and Mercury in the 8th house whole sign. And for me, that's Scorpio. I've always been intrigued by the occult, by spirituality, and I've always wanted to anchor it into the real world. And I have a conjunction between Pluto and Venus in the 6th house. So for me, these made sense of why I have certain, Stephen, are you kidding me right now? Opening a dry cleaning business? He's such a jokester, that guy, I tell you. So I feel like astrology, for me, okay, let me back up and be clearer. I believe that our natal chart is when you go to college, how you take a schedule of classes and you're like, okay, this is my plan for this semester. I feel like that's what the natal chart is. We don't always complete every class that we sign up for. Sometimes we drop them and we decide, I'll take that one the next semester. So when we have our natal chart, this is sort of a plan that we have, a plan of achievement, a plan of what we want the legacy we want to leave behind, the things we want to evolve through, and the time, the space, the generation with which we incarnate all support that dynamic. So, good morning, Foxy Girl 646. Welcome. Good morning, Claire. Karmic lesson recently, particularly around relationships and judgments towards other. Last lesson really hurt. Oh, yeah. You know what I want to say when we look at when I've been hurt? Sometimes I want to say it this way. Sometimes there's a question Spirit put to me one day, and I was kind of pissed off about the question, to be honest with you, but it was very powerful. My guides looked at me when I was very hurt by something and they said, "What are you pretending not to know?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And they said, "What are you pretending not to know? You've had this experience a couple of times. Are you going to pretend it's not true?" Hmm. Stephen, you did not miss your calling as a comedian. Trust me, you'll be using that in all of your teaching and in your business and as an astrologer, and it's why people will gravitate towards you and want you to be their teacher. Okay, so I would like to sort of ask you guys when you're running up against a situation where you feel like you're banging your head against a wall or you're kind of going around in a circle, maybe you should ask yourself, what am I pretending not to know? Because when I started to be really brave in that question, I started to realize I was more powerful than I realized in my creation. I was more influential than had given myself credit for. And it was the time I spent, because I'm an Aries rising too, Lyra. And that Aries rising is very, and I have my Mars in Libra. Oh, hold on. Where to go? I have Aries rising, but Mars in Libra, and I'm still learning how to balance. But I am too. I'm telling, I am too. Andrew, please speak in English. We don't like if we can't read it, we're gonna have to remove it from the chat. But I want to say this. Every once in a while, I get sort of bunched up about my Libra Aries opposition, but you know what? At the same time, it's like I think of it this way. I feel like my sun being in Libra, and by the way, I'm born on Spica, Philip Daniel Miles, or Miles. I got your name wrong. I said it wrong. It's Philip Miles Daniel. I think I'm saying it right. Anyway, I have found that if it wasn't for my Aries, I would never be brave enough to push up against some things, to be willing to walk my own path. And my Libra sun and my Mars, which I have this, like most people say that the sun is debilitated in Libra, and Mars is dumbed down by being conjunct the sun, but I don't think so. For me, I feel like it's about learning how to let the sun be the king and let the Mars be the general to the sun. So when I started listening to David Cochran talk about Aries and Mars being the truth seeker, that made a lot of sense to me. So yes, there's a weird pendulum swing sometimes, because my Aries every once in a while will get so pissed off about unfairness that I'll be a little cranky. But this is part of the path I chose. And when I think about, would I rather be weak in my choices? Would I rather be more susceptible to the herd's opinion of me? Oh, no, no, no. I don't like that idea. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. Okay. All right, let's see. Chaos there. I've discovered astrology through the Leo King. Oh, yes, I've heard of him. But after I got, I lost you. Let me work. Oh, there he is. Philip Daniel Miles, got you. Yes, I remember. I think your moon is on Spica, is it not? Yes, yes. Perfect. It's a fun star to be born on, actually. It was so validating. I never knew about Spica until I was trying to get Lada's attention. This is another funny story, okay? My guides were laughing at me because, Philip, you are part of this story. I used to watch when you were on Lada's channel, and Heather was on the channel, and April was doing more stuff. And I was going to get a reading with you, Philip. I said, I wonder, because Lada had just had the babies and she was so busy. I thought, well, I'm going to try to get a reading with Philip, and maybe Philip will look at my chart and see, oh, I should be on Lada's channel. And then Philip will go talk to Lada about me, and then Lada will put me on the channel. And my guides laughed like you have never heard laughter. They were like, you're an idiot. No offense, Philip, but they're like, go directly to the source. Why are you trying to go side end going this way? So I went to Lada once she was still doing readings, and I just asked her one question. Tell me about my career. And then she she said, "You're born on Spica," and then she went to my website and said, "You're doing exactly what you're meant to do." And it took 7 months later, I debuted on Lada's channel. So it was really, really an interesting journey. So you guys go direct to your dreams. Don't sidestep them. Don't, be brave, because your dreams are kind of like bubbles, they can be easily popped. And I want to say this because there's a momentum to being brave. It's thank you so much. It's so. I was talking to somebody yesterday on the phone, and being Christmas Eve, I was telling her I've really, this last year, with this conjunction and everything, I've really cut the fat of things that were not authentic to me, people, places, dynamics. And I find myself, as I told her, with all my chips in the game. I feel like I'm in Vegas and I've got this pile of chips and I'm just pushing it into the middle because I'm betting on myself. And I'm betting on myself in a way I never have before. If a dynamic is not authentic to me, I won't keep it. So I don't know if I told you guys, but I had a gentleman friend, who bought me a car. And he didn't really buy it for me. He just let me drive it. He told me he was buying it for me. And 10 years after, this car, I put 48,000 miles on it in 10 years, which, if living in California, that's nothing. But I gave it back because I just couldn't live in this weird lie, as I put it, because he looks like a generous person, but he's not a generous person. So I don't have a car anymore. And if for some reason I don't book readings, oh no, I might have to go get a job. I had to go through all of these machinations in my head. And that's when I saw myself pushing all the chips into the middle of the game and saying to myself, I'm in the game, I'm betting on myself, and I'm winning. I'm winning. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And so, yeah, has it been a weird, scary year? Probably. Could it be the most empowering year of my life? Probably. And will I look back maybe someday on this video and be so glad I put all my chips in? Yeah. And you know what? If I didn't have that Aries rising, I couldn't be this courageous. And if I didn't have my Taurus moon, I couldn't be this stubborn. So I feel like, and this is what I believe. My focus, my willingness to stand in the outcome that I want is really how things are going to play out. Because if I keep going into the uh-oh, 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 I'm going to manifest it. So I want to offer you this, guys, because I'm not advocating anybody quit their job or give their car away or do anything like that. Silly. But what I am doing is I'm offering you this idea to do an experiment, with things you want. Do an experiment with parking spaces. Before I got to be here, I had to grow into it. I had to allow myself to fall down. I had to allow myself to be wrong or to be right. And I had to allow myself not to need other people's agreement. That was a big one. That was a really big one. Because I wanted other people to be excited for me as well. Look at me. But not everybody wants to look at the world this way. So, yeah, it's kind of crazy. All right. Oh, Cancer. Oh, Debbie, yeah, you've got another year to go. You're on the eclipse axis. So today's eclipse will in some ways affect you. Yeah, Cardinal Yam. That's me. Okay, any other questions that anybody want to ask me anything? Anybody want to bring up anything? Anybody have any great experiences they want to talk about? Peppermint hot chocolate that's really lukewarm now because I talk too much. South Node in Capricorn. You must be having some interesting, because you must have had K2 return or something, because you've got to, if you have it in, can't speak. If your South Node is in Capricorn, Ketu's been in Capricorn. I have different processes for meditation for different things. Um, so Cheryl Conway asks, do you have a process for meditation or do meditation? Or did you just start talking to your angels? Okay, so a couple things started happening to me. I had a very, I had a childhood that was full of discord, to say the least. Had it been a later age, my mom probably would have been called a child abuser. But so early on, I used to stare up at the sky, and I used to think that God had messages for me through the clouds. And I lived in my grandparents' house, and there was this huge window in the bedroom, and I would always see faces through the trees. Like somehow they would make faces, and I would see hearts. So I was always kind of predisposed to looking for signs and omens. And then I gave myself permission to start to build my own language. So when something had a significance for me, so for instance, a green apple. When I see a green apple metaphorically in my mind, I think, oh, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. But when I see a red apple in my mind's eye, I think about a teacher. So I allowed myself to start to connect with my guides and my angels the way that we connect with our animals, creating our own language. So when you use the file cabinet of your own memories and spirit starts to knock on a memory, then allow that to be a sign of your intuition. Mushlin, you're studying hypnotherapy. Oh, that's very cool. Yes, indeed, it is. It's a form of meditation. Chris, did I heal the relationship with my mother? I would have to say, I think of healing as a reconciliation. So, do I have a relationship with my mother? No, I do not have a relationship. She's a very toxic woman, and she's a distraction for me to my higher self. So what I've done is I've reconciled the relationship. On some level, I know that I picked my mother and my father and my family. I'm still wondering why I did that. But anyway, it does offer me a lot of opportunities to have experienced things that propelled me to seek answers to questions. And that brought me to where I am today. So I'm not connected to my mother in a way that most humans would see as beneficial, but I see it as beneficial to stay away from her and use the experience I had. I only spent 14 years of my life with my mom before I had to leave her. She was so angry and so physically violent that, I might have died. So I had to go. But, again, well, I have to say this, guys. When I found out that we pick our lives, we pick our parents, I was so mad at God. I yelled. I was so mad. I'm like, what? Who didn't tell me about that? Oh my God, I had such a moment. But now here I am 6 decades later, and I see the wisdom of picking these people. Because, if they hadn't been who they were, I might not have been who I am. So anyway. All right. A lot of I could tell you guys so many rough stories, but every one of those stories was a teacher for me. Every one of those, that's how I started to ask myself the questions. What are you pretending you don't know? Because after a while, you go through a series of experiences and they're the same all the time. Then what are you pretending you don't know? Because somehow you're a common denominator. I was a common denominator in many things. So. Paul, I will say that might be part of your son's life path is as he experiences the abandonment of his father, he becomes a great father to either his own children or to other children around him. So, Edward, I actually have blue eyes. Thank you very much, but they may look green today. They sometimes change. When I found out I first picked my parents, I gotta tell you, I fell to my knees and I cried. Like, what kind of idiot am I? And then, the years went by. And I gotta tell you this too, guys, because when I started studying spirituality, there was no internet. There was very few books. There was a woman named Elizabeth Montgomery, and I remember finding her books in the bookstore and reading them and writing her a letter because it was in the back of the book. And she wrote me back and she said, just keep meditating. Just keep meditating. And I want to go back to that for a minute because I started to address different kinds of meditations because I do think that there's a meditation where I quiet my mind and I get to that place of reception to spirit's message. But then I also feel like there's a kind of meditation where I'm giving spirit a directive, where I say to spirit, I am ready to receive. And one of the things that I have said to spirit lately is that I'm willing to be brave in my exposure, meaning the more people who are exposed to me, the more I am potentially supported or potentially criticized, And so I've said to spirit, I'm willing to be everything I can be. And that's again where I see myself pushing my chips into the middle of the table and betting on myself. And I feel like if I don't bet on myself, who will? And I feel like I'm part of this dynamic where all you guys that are here today are part of this energetic movement of pushing our chips in and betting on ourselves so that we can experience the nirvana that this planet is supposed to be. Because when we make those scary choices towards the things that we love, again, they're exhilarating, they're empowering, they're why we come here. We don't come here for the ease. We actually come here for the challenge. We come here for the challenge of accomplishment. Okay. I want to say this too. I feel like that, when there's nothing wrong with being a mama's boy. I don't want to say just because I didn't have a good relationship with my family doesn't mean that you have to have a poor relationship with your family in order to succeed. I feel like there's reward lifetimes where we come in and we say, I'm going to have a lot of people around me that really help me be who I am because they too are part of a tribe. I feel like there's a collective here somehow. I feel like everything has rhyme and reason if we are just willing to step back for a minute and try to see things from a broader perspective. Shelley, you know what? You did the best job you could do at the time. And again, I want to say this because, my mom, my biological mom, so interesting to me because her parents raised me, really. So I don't even know how she turned out the way she turned out. I got to be honest with you. But at the same time, because I could remember saying when I was in grammar school saying that I I'm pretty sure I picked this family because of my grandfather because he was such a beautiful soul. But if my mom hadn't been the way she was, it never would have sought me to be a seeker and a seeker outside the box. And while I'm not going to give her any accolades for, all the hard work I've done, if she was the catalyst for that, then she served a purpose. In the things, have you guys ever heard of a movie called The Shack? It's a great movie. It's a great book. It's by William. I've got it here somewhere. Where is it? Oh, I think it's stashed underneath my Christmas stuff. This book called The Shack, or a movie called The Shack, is such a great movie. It's about this guy, Mac, who loses his daughter in a rather challenging way. And I won't tell you what it is. And it's not the focus of the story. The focus is of Mac's relationship with God and understanding God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit. And I would love for you guys all to indulge yourself in that movie because it really it helps with the reconciliation. And it's the most beautiful scene at the end of the movie where there's all these souls from heaven that are lined up, and it's exactly how I've always pictured spirit to be. They're sort of rainbow colored souls. So I would offer that. Um, Susie, I did. Oh, interesting. I'd be curious to know. I have Uranus in the fifth house, and I'd be curious to know if some of you guys that chose not to have kids also have Uranus in the fifth house, because Uranus is about freedom and independence. And I felt like I raised my mom and my sister for the first 14 years, and that was enough for me. Okay, Bonbon 825. I believe God speaks to us, but I also think we should trust our intuition. Not sure why. I have a hard time trusting my gut. Trusting your gut is God talking to you, guys. That is God talking to you. And as you practice it, then you'll start to get the signs and the omens to confirm it. Yes, I believe we choose our families for many, many reasons. And I believe many people who are the black sheeps in their families um, are really the people that have come in as souls breaking the box, so that we are no longer under. I was thinking about Saturn today, because most astrologers will always say that Saturn requires you doing the hard work, and I absolutely agree with that. What if the hard work is not working hard? What if the hard work that Saturn is really asking us is to have that bigger vision and to hold the line for that? That's something. What if Saturn has been humanized? What if Saturn has been like, they talk about Saturn representing structures and representing buildings, but what if those buildings could be castles in the sky? That's what Elsa did. She created ice castles in the sky. What if Saturn really wants us to be in that version of ourselves that is the deeper knowing, and in doing so, holding the line with that? And that's why Saturn rewards when you do the hard work. And it's hard work to hold the line for ourselves in a world that pummels us with fear. I don't know if you guys watch TV. I watch a lot of TV. And every commercial is about how your body's going to tank you. Your car is going to be hit by mayhem. Have you seen those commercials with Tina Fey and Mayhem? Mayhem is the dog that distracts her while she's driving, the mother-in-law that criticizes her while she's driving. We are pummeled with so much nonsense. So it's about shifting that. Okay. All right. Something's gone off here, guys. I don't know what's going on. Whew. Okay. I don't know if anyone can keep up with all this nonsense. Okay. Well, you know what? I think we're going to do, guys, since we've got something running amok here on the comments. How do we stop that? How do we slow it down? How do we slow this down? Let's see. Let's remove this. I guess we've got some sort of person who's, let's do that. Oh, I wonder if this is one person who can, anyway. Okay. All right, guys, I'm going to do this. It's about almost 2 o'clock now. So here in California, we've got somebody gone nuts in the chat. So we're going to wrap it up for now. I want to thank you all for joining me on this Christmas day and this eclipse. I hope you'll put a intention out today to really set forth the deeper truth of what you want for yourself. That's, I hate when this nonsense happens. We haven't had a big troll situation in a while. So anyway, I want to thank you all again for being here. And Cheryl, please send me an email, because now I'm not even going to remember. I'm going to have to go back and look in the chat and see. And I'm going to have to remove all this nonsense as well. So, okay. Happy Merry Christmas Day, everybody. Sending lots of love to you. I want to thank you all for being here. And we're going to wrap it up for today. I'll see you next Sunday, regular time, 11 a.m. Pacific. Namaste. Merry Christmas and happy eclipse.